seen an archetype called the Rock that in different forms actually still exists to this day. You know, think of the more modern day kind of the Jund, grindy type decks. That's not what it was. It was just black green when he did it. But yeah, kind of a legend of the game in the feature here. It's great to see him here.
Absolutely. Yeah, kind of the one who popularized the Golgari mid-range archetype, as many of you newer folks might not even know what the Rock is in terms of what kind of deck it is. But that's what it was. It was a Golgari mid-range deck, which is now kind of you know, evolved into all kinds of different decks. You add a color here, Jund, Abzan, all that stuff. But you know, the classic hand disruption into threats and try to kill you that way. And you know what? He's kind of doing a similar thing here, except it's a lot faster. It's mono black aggro here. The deck just plays a ton of hand disruption and Thoughtseize and Inquisition of Kozilek, and has you know, a bunch of great efficient beaters, and you know, trying to get there with this game plan here.
It is funny because when you think back to Saul's days, you needed to play green to get big enough creatures so that the pressure was sufficient. You know, so that you could rip away their cards. That buys you a little bit of time, and you need to capitalize on it with big creatures. Well, these days, these black creatures are plenty big. You know, they do the job just fine. He's already got 4 power on the battlefield with a Rankle sitting, and he's got Faceless Haven as well on the battlefield. You see, as we come in here, we're in game number 2, with John having picked up the first game, and yikes. See you guys later. Anger of the Gods is going to sweep away the board, and that's a permanent answer to those problems. Are we going to see the Faceless Haven fire up, or is it going to be Rankle? It's going to be Rankle
time for sure.
Get in there. Get you some cards going.
Yeah, Anger of the Gods, brutal. I mean, one of the kind of the strengths of playing this mono black aggro deck is just the fact that you can you have creatures that are very resilient to removal, right? You just have all these 1-drops that can kind of come back, and of course, Anger does a fantastic job of negating that.
Yeah, you know, I played against this mono black deck a few times on the ladder with the same build or same deck that John's playing, and yeah, it didn't really feel like that bad of a matchup, to be honest. You post board particularly, you can bring in these sweepers. We've already seen 2 of them fired off now with Sweltering Suns on the stack, and they do a really good job of taking away the pressure. And then the Thoughtseize and stuff just don't hold up. You get to go through your library with this deck.
Yeah, you would think in theory, right? In theory, a deck that's got a bunch of hand disruption spells, you have spot removal for the Velomachus, and you can put pressure on your opponent. You would think that would be the recipe to beat a deck like this Jeskai Turns deck, but that often isn't kind of how the games play out.
Yeah, the interesting card, I think, is Mizzix's Mastery, right? If they Thoughtseize away your Magma Opus and then you top deck a Mizzix's Mastery, like, they're the ones who are sad, not you. And, you know, and you have a lot of outs along those lines. Now, this card is interesting. Go blank off the top here for Saul. That is an annoying card. That's a type of card that can actually put a dent in your game plan because it exiles your graveyard as well. So you get the card advantage and the graveyard goes.
I think we're going to see a memory lapse here, and John is setting this up beautifully here. I think we're going to see a memory lapse potentially. He's actually going for Prismari. I was thinking you're going to memory lapse the Go Blank, Prismari Command, destroy the Soul Guide Lantern, and loot potentially, right? Loot, discard Magma Opus, and then you can go for a Mizzix's Mastery here on Magma Opus.
Yeah, that's a very powerful line. I like what you're thinking here.
And Soul doesn't even have any pressure right now, so I mean, and John has a nice 1/1 to kind of get in the way of that Faceless Haven, so things are looking good here for John. Yeah, I think we're going to see a dead Soul Guide Lantern here, and a loot here happening.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Nothing really in the graveyard worth exiling, so Soul might just choose to cash the Soul Guide Lantern in for a card.
Just get a card out of the deal. Okay. Go Blank goes back into hand here. But
Interesting.
This is going to be a much different board state. Ooh, Time Warp too.
Yeah, I'm looking to see if he has the mana. So if he goes Fabled Passage, that gives him land number 6. The Magma Opus gives him access to 6 mana.
He's just going to go for the Time Warp, get in.
Okay.
Yeah, he's working his way up to actually overloading a Mastery, and with the second Mastery in hand now, That's going to give him the opportunity to have that game plan for later. And so he can just go for the Magma Opus now.
Yep.
For you, get a 4/4, draw the cards, probably hit a land drop this turn and kind of start to run away with this thing.
Yeah, he just really wants to get to the Overload. Although we do know that a Go Blink is in Soul Malka's hands. So this Mizzix's Mastery actually is not going to be doing much. However, John has found an indomitable creativity here off the Magma Opus, and he should be using that to get a Velomachus onto the battlefield.
That's right. Yeah, big top deck here actually for Saul. His hand is Go Blank Gutter Bones. And he needs to find a way to, he'd love to find a hand disruption spell, but unfortunately for him, it's a snow-covered swamp off the top of the library, and that's going to leave him exposed. As actually, he's going to prioritize getting in with Faceless Haven here, giving John the option to block with the 4/4, and now Go Blank's no longer on the menu.
Can't even Go Blank. Yeah.
Yeah, that was risky stuff there from Saul. If John doesn't block, then it works out nicely, but he did.
And now that we're tapped out here, I imagine we're just going to go with the creativity here. There's a Time Warp in the graveyard, so if you hit a Mastery or a Time Warp, you can just continue taking extra turns. And yep.
There it is. Indomitable Creativity gets rid of that Dwarf, puts Velomachus on the battlefield. Yeah, he's got the fancy version. That's actually a sweet one. Look at that.
Yeah.
Grumpy Velomachus. Anyway, gets it in.
There it is.
And it's going to hit a Mizzix's Mastery for a Time Warp. And I think we can call this one about in the books. Down to 9 is going to go Saul. And with the Mizzix's Mastery in hand, we're going to see a land drop here. 3, 4, 5, land number 6, then 7 the next turn.
Right, and even if he finds a Prismari command, he can make a treasure and actually overload that Mizzix's Mastery that he has in his hand.
And Saul's ready with the good game. He's not going to click it until he sees what Velomachus hits.
You have a Time Warp?
Time Warp will definitely earn the GG here. Let's see what he hits.
GG on the stack. What are we looking at here?
Anger, Brainstorm, Mastery, and I'm assuming that we already saw one Time Warp hit.
I imagine we're going to see a Brainstorm just so you can potentially find a Time Warp. Oh, okay. Oh, no. No, this makes sense.
Prismari command off of Mizzix's Mastery.
Right. And he's going to the face.
This will allow him to see 2 cards. And it's a Time Warp!
There's a Time Warp.
Hey,
or you can just shock your opponent with the command.
Yeah.
All kinds of different ways to win here.
That's right. He actually just has the win in hand here with Prismari command, tapped out opponent on 2 life. And it's going to be game and match going to John Girardot as he finishes things off in impressive fashion. Jeskai Turns is a extraordinarily powerful deck, and you can see how it plays out in different matchups. This time it was against mono black aggro.